Well, hello all. Quite a day here in San Francisco. Foggy, windy, cold, drizzly up in the hills and around the west part of the city. So we'll do the video inside today. Florida has been slammed by an ocean heat wave. An ocean heat wave in the waters around Florida has scientists worried about cascading disasters from hurricanes to coral bleaching to record heat inland. Both sea and land are having trouble with heat. Ocean temperatures have soared 5 degrees Fahrenheit above normal since early July. Normally, when you break records by a tenth of a degree, maybe even a quarter of a degree in the ocean. Here, we're breaking it by 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Summertime seas around Florida typically average about 88 degrees Fahrenheit, but ocean monitor stations along the coast began recording temperatures hovering in the 90s that prompted forecasters at the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration to predict that half the planet's oceans could undergo heat waves by September of this year. Corals are the most fragile sea life struggling with climate change. The U.S. Department of Defense, yes, the Department of Defense, is developing more heat-tolerant corals. Now that's an interesting one. This is part of a reef resilient project. That's what they're calling it, the Resilient Project. Even if scientists succeed in breeding more resilient corals, that would only buy a little more time for the world's reefs. The last 10 years have been the ocean's hottest decade on record. Now the problem with trying to build a more heat-tolerant coral is that you're displacing the native corals that were there with unnative corals, and you never know what that'll do. What will be able to feed on these corals? Will it sustain any sea life? And for how long? Since these temperatures are going to continue to rise over and over and over throughout the years, how long before the new heat-tolerant corals will be no good, and they will die off as well? Wouldn't it be better to, instead of doing all this nonsense, was just try to cut back on fossil fuels as much as possible? Stop exploration, stop continuously coddling the fossil fuel industry, and try and get on alternative energy, which is only about 3% of the world's energy grid at this time. It's about 3%, maybe 2% in some places. And so it's got so much further to go. Wouldn't it be better to try and control the human population, to bring it down some naturally by just not birthing babies as much? Adopting children is a lot better way of having a family anyway, because you bring an unwanted child into a wanting home and help that child along. There's plenty of birthing babies going on right now. Can't we just reduce that a little bit and adopt instead? There's so many ways we can stop global heating, and one of them isn't by implanting corals that we don't know what are going to do in the ocean, in the areas that they're not supposed to be in, especially engineering coral by the Department of Defense. That just seems off the charts to me. But anyway, your thoughts on this would be appreciated. What do you guys think about developing heat-tolerant corals around Florida so that they can avoid losing their coral reefs, which protects Florida from hurricanes and other destructive storms? What it does is when a big wave comes along, instead of crashing into the coastline, it slows it down and flattens it out so it's not so destructive once it gets to the beach. That's how corals help divert hurricane destruction. Another one is by planting vegetation, native vegetation, all around Florida, around where the oceans are. And guess what? There goes the alarm. I'm always cooking something, so the stove timer is always going off, so that's what that's all about. Anyway, there are so many ways we can protect beaches and property, land around Florida by planting the native vegetation that used to grow there, that was meant for hurricanes and big storms, and protected the land from those, which have all been cleared away for housing for humans. So, what's your thoughts on this? I appreciate any comments, your ups, and your new subscribers. And until next time.